So, when you think generational wealth, what comes to mind? Well, something has been in my family for generations. So, it's passed down from great 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 grandpappy down to grandpappy, pappy, and finally to you. That's generational wealth, right? Right? Well, kinda, sorta, but not the kind I'm talking about. So today we are going to try and understand why is generational wealth so important, especially at a time like this. So we're going to talk about why is generational wealth important. And to understand why one would want to build generational wealth, we have to look at three concepts. So we're going to discuss the cost, connections, and collateral that are usually associated with generational wealth. And you can delve either as far in or as shallow as you want into a subject like this, because this is the kind of subject that is different for every individual. So, generational wealth gives later generations in a family a leg up or some sense of equity for future endeavors. Now, think if a child or a grandchild wants to start a business, go to a private school, a lot of times there are at least one or two barriers to getting in, aside from being accepted or getting the go-ahead to go into a business. One, you need some kind of money. Usually, you need to know somebody that can help you figure out, okay, how is the application process for this going, and what do I need to do? Either do I have to pay an application fee, or do I have to pay for permits in terms of a business, and exactly where can I go to get this done? A lot of times, most things don't get done simply because you don't know where to start. Now, considering the average price, now this is average price of a private primary education ranges from $2,900 in Nebraska for elementary school to near $34,000 in Connecticut for high school per year. That is a lot of money that has to be come up with every single year for at least almost 10 to 12 years, and it's got to come from somewhere. That's not even touching prices for private post-secondary education, which can cost literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm not saying that it's impossible to do without connections, but it damn sure ain't easy to do. Speaking of connections, there's a saying known as 6 degrees of separation connects us all somehow. In the social atmosphere, this is vital simply because this is how we make these valuable connections. And these connections can be used for, the possibilities are endless, but simple ones such as restaurant reservations, job hirings, and even internal job postings and job references, because a lot of higher paying positions and higher statured positions are usually hired internally due to it's easier if you come recommended by somebody, and there's a lot less in the vetting process, usually. Now, if we extrapolate these connections, this can be how a person's child can get into education easier. Because sometimes if you don't have recommendations from other parents, there's a very long waiting list. There are some people who will put their children on waiting lists for pre-K and nursery school. As soon as they find out they're pregnant or as soon as that baby is born, that's when this waiting starts. So by the time they are of age to get in, usually they have a fighting chance. Now, generational wealth does not always mean solely money. It can be stocks, bonds, real estate, intellectual property and licensing associated with it, rare coins, art, the list goes on and on and on. However, when generational wealth is done properly, the benefits are insurmountably valuable, sometimes even more valuable than the money that is bequeathed to a person. This is what's known as collateral for the purposes of this conversation. Just think, if there's ever an emergency, and I do mean a dire emergency where cash, liquid, is of utmost importance, think of the peace you have not having to worry about where the money is coming from. Is it going to be enough? Or in the grand scheme of things, if you can recover from a devastating loss, or even if you can make that money back. Think of it. As of today, we are in July of 2020, there are nearly 60% or more of Americans that cannot cover what is seen as a simple $400 emergency. Now, think, with generational wealth, if there is a leg up in the game, usually that gigantic emergencies such as a flat tire, maybe you need new brakes or a new engine, or maybe you need a car to get somewhere. Something that can be seen as a dire emergency to one person might just be a small, annoying inconvenience to another person. Now, what I want you to really think about when we think about generational wealth is I'm not just going to take all the money I have at the end of my life, say it's $100 million for evenness sake. I'm not going to all just give that to my son or daughter or my children and say, have fun, go with it. Because then your generational wealth, as easy as it came to you, goes by. When you deal with generational wealth, you want to make sure that as you're drawing down on the money, that whatever money is left is going to start building back up. So say if you have an estate that's worth $100 million, again, evenness sake, if you have 3 children, you're not going to just dole out a third, a third, and a third and leave your estate with nothing. You might say, okay, we're going to take half of this estate, so that would be $50 million, divide it into the 3 shares for the 3 children. That other half is going to be either invested or under a caretakership, so that in the future, this estate can be passed on to my children's children, and their children, and their children. It's essentially like if you take a piece of paper and you keep folding it, and keep folding it until there's a very tiny, tiny bit left, eventually you'll run out. However, if you take the same piece of paper, you start with this half instead of the whole, and you're dealing with breaking up just this half, the other half has time for it to become another full piece. Not literally full, but you get the point. Anyway, generational wealth can be a very huge asset, which we will talk about in another video. Generational wealth can also take off a lot of mental stress and anxiety that a lot of people are going through, especially now. There are times when you might not know, do I want to pay the rent, buy the food, pay for the medicine, pay for the school? How is it all coming together? What is going to make this possible? Generational wealth is just one tiny, tiny peg in this whole stool that we're using to prop ourselves up. And as always, my generational wealth is going to be different from my neighbor's generational wealth and the person who is on the other side of the world. All versions are not going to be the same. We're not all going to be William Thorpe Harrison III's descendants. It doesn't work the same. There is no one way to get the same amount of generational wealth, and there is no one right way to do it. You might want to have an executor to do all of the financials. you might want to do it yourself because it's maybe not that big of a nest egg that you want to leave. But the purpose is generational wealth will be your best friend if you can handle it. Now, I want to hear, what are you doing to build generational wealth? Are you opening up an educational trust for maybe a relative of yours, say a cousin or a niece or a nephew, or even yourself? Are you going to better yourself and start getting over these hurdles of cost and collateral? Are you looking to make more connections? I would love to hear what you're doing to create more generational wealth, or even to start building your own generational wealth. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the comments. Hey, I really hope you enjoyed this video on generational wealth. And as always, like, share, comment, and subscribe, and click the notification bell to be notified when I update, which is usually about once a week. I really try to do once a week. And I am looking forward to connecting more with you and learning about what you might know that I don't, and vice versa. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time on The Life of Elvie. Bye-bye.